Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Menachos Lamed Hey. We begin on Lamed Daled Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Chananel. Amar, in the name of Rav. Hechlev parshis. Suppose one places the parshis into the tefillin in the wrong sequence. Okay, so as we learned yesterday, not only are you meant to actually write the sections as they are in the Torah in the same sequence, Kadashli followed by Vayikvi'acha, etc., as they are sequenced in the Torah, you meant to place them into the tefillin in that order as well, if you switch them around. So, for instance, in the tefillin shel rosh, which is comprised of 4 compartments, you mixed up the seder, you mixed up the order. Psulis. So your tefillin is pasul. Amma bay lo yamar, and it's only a concern. Elo gavyasa levrayasa. If the parsha, which is meant to be internal, was put on the side, sort of facing the outside. So you have the 4 compartments in the shel rosh. Let's call them 1, right, starting from the right side. 1, which is sort of facing the outside, right, exposed to the, followed by 2, which is sort of sandwiched between 1 and 3. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 again is sort of exposed to the outside on the left. It says Abai, concern is only if you switch them in a drastic form. So you take the external one, you place it inside, or vice versa. Elik v'yasa, the internal one, you made it an external one. Ubriyas. Griyas, you turned that into an external one. Or vice versa. Ubriyas, you took one from the outside, let's say number 1. Gavyasa, you turned it into number 2, an internal one. So it's drastic. Reconfiguration is a problem. Aval gavyasa, but if you just switch internal to internal, so you switch around 2 and 3, or likewise external with external, like 1 and 4, there's no concern. Amalei Rabba, so Rabba responds, what's the difference? Maishna gavyasa briyasa. What's wrong with internal to external, or the other way, uvriyasa, if you take the external one, the one on the outside, and you put it on the inside, the gavyasa, the law, that doesn't work because you've drastically reconfigured it. Because, for instance, number 1, which is meant to be exposed to the avir, to the air, open to the outside, now cannot do so. Loika chazir is not going to be exposed to the outside, it's sandwiched. And vice versa as well. You take one that's meant to be covered and you expose it. And the internal one, which is meant to be covered, kachazia, is now open and exposed. Chazia literally means it sees, right? It sees the air. So then I understand, well, if so, even just a slight switch over, like from 1 to 4, or 2 to 3, okay, it's still relatively in the same position, but it's in the wrong side, right? Bariyas, you take one outside one, you switch it with the other outside one, or 2 internal ones which are switched to each other. Not there as well. You have drastically reconfigured it. It's the wrong side, facing the wrong way. The parsha, which up until now was meant to face the right ear, the ear on the right side of the person, is facing the left side, and vice versa. The small, or the small, the one that was meant to be facing the ear on the left side, is now facing the right ear space. It says Rava, it really doesn't matter. Any switch, any reorientation disqualifies its tefillin. Another halacha regarding tefillin titura, this bridge, Rashi explains. So, as we learned yesterday, you take one piece of leather when it's still soft and pliable. This is to make the, let's say, the shel rosh. You force it over a form which has 4 protrusions to make those 4 compartments, and then eventually it dries and hardens, and you sort of configure it into a proper square. But then you have the extra piece of leather sticking out. That's going to be folded beneath the compartments and cover them like a bridge over a gap, over an empty. So that's a tetura, the bridge, the cover on bottom of the box of the tefillin. That's part and parcel of its integral design. It was halacha l'mishum Sinai, taught to Moshe Rabbeinu back at Sinai. Amar Abaye, what else is halacha l'mishum Sinai? Mavarata the tefillin, the sort of tunnel through which the strap is pushed. So this folded piece of leather that we spoke about, that folds beneath the tefillin, so at the point of the fold, there's an extra section there, which is meant to remain hollow, into which they push the strap, which will now hold the box, secure the box, the person's head and arm. It's a mavarta, the go-through. The tefillin, that's also not just a practical thing, it's also halacha l'mishum Sinai, must be there. V'Rabbaye, what else? Shin shel tefillin, the leather shin, the letter shin that we design in the leather of the tefillin, one on either side of the tefillin shel rosh, is also halacha l'mishum Sinai. Interestingly, the Rishonim say that we do a 3-legged shin on one side and a 4 on the other one. I saw an interesting pshat from the Rishonim. What's the point of a 4-section shin? In the actual, Torah we write a 3-section shin. So what's the point of a 4-legged shin? So the Rishonim explain. It's meant to resemble the shin that was in the luchos back on Har Sinai. You see, over here it's protruding, right? You sort of form it in the leather as a protruding letter. In the luchos, it was actually engraved, inverted, right, into the stone. Now just picture it. Suppose you're engraving a shin with 3 legs. Let's just ignore what you've engraved. Let's look at the material that remained. The stone material that's surrounding the engraved shin. What does that look like? Think about it. It looks like a 4-legged shin. Right? Picture a 4-legged shin into which they engraved a 3-legged shin. So the 4-section shin on the tefillin is meant to resemble that type of shin as well. The shin of the luchos. Very interesting pshat. So you have two variations: a regular shin, like a Sefer Torah shin, that's on one side a 3-part shin, and then the other side we have a 4-part shin, like the shin of the luchos. Okay, v'tzarach sheyagia charitz l'makom ha'tfar. Now, yesterday we spoke about the charitz. That's the dividing line between the compartments in the shel rosh. So that division is meant to be obvious, meant to be visible, discernible on the outside of the tefillin, right? From the outside, you're supposed to see these sections, and it's meant to go down till the makom ha'tfar basically means the base of the tefillin where they sew. So it's meant to go to the bottom. Interestingly, by the way, speak about the charitz. It has to actually be the dividing line between the sections. So a couple of years ago there was a big tumult because they discovered that some unscrupulous or unprofessional filmmakers, they fooled the crowd. They basically they had 4 sections in the shel rosh, right? But let's say they weren't really all proportionate. They weren't, perfectly equal, the 4 sections. You had a thicker section, a thinner section, so it wouldn't look nice from the outside. So what they did was, they just painted a thick layer of paint over the 4 sections, so you would no longer see the divisions. And then they took some sort of tool, and they marked. They made 4 nice lines, equal, even, proportionate lines on the outside, 3 lines corresponding to the 4 sections, and people would think, okay, that's the charitz. Those are the sections. In reality, it was merely just a superficial mark on the outside of the leather, and that was invalid. It's not kosher. So this big tumult arose, and somebody discovered it, and they had to everybody had to run to go check their tefillin. I took my tefillin about a year or two ago. I went to this professional sefer. You know what he did? He took this really sharp knife. Basically, they had to test, had to determine whether the marks on the outside, the charitz that we're talking about, are really representative of the actual placement of the section, or is it merely just a mark on the outside? So he took a knife and he ran it into the indent, into that mark, and he could tell whether he was going through hard leather or whether he was actually just sliding between real sections that were lying behind that mark. And Baruch Hashem, my tefillin was okay. He went through all the dividers and they all just slid. He didn't cut the whole thing down, a little bit, but he was able to tell by the feel and by the pressure that it was really the dividing mark between two actual sections that were lying behind that mark. So the Baruch Hashem, the tefillin were kosher. But very important thing to keep in mind that the charitz isn't merely a marker. It's not just a superficial charitz. It's got to be a charitz, which goes through and through, which is actually the division between the section. Okay. So that's the halacha. Rav Dimi ben Arda Amar Kiven de Minkar lo tzarech. You don't have to the charitz going all the way down. As long as you see some sort of division, that's enough. From Rabbi, high kill for the tefillin. Now let's move over to the sefer who writes the parshas. So you have the kilfa. Kilfa is like a cloth, right? The parchment. Tzarech lemivdek. You have to actually check it, pick it up, in front of the light, and check to see if there are any holes. The doma isbei riusim. If there's something wrong, there's a hole. Obeinad ksiva tama v'lekan. It's not going to be fulfillment of ksiva tama properly. Properly written letters. It's going to be, chopped and cut and missing, Rav Dimin Adar Amar, he says, you don't have to check it in the light. Kul Musa Badikla. Because even if it's a little pinhole in there, it's not an issue, because the kulmas, the scribes, the feather that he uses to, the quill is going to check it for you, which means to say that if the kulmas can just write over it with the ink, and the ink sort of fills in that little teeny pinhole, that's okay. That's not really considered a problem. Amar Yitzchak, Ritzuis, what about the straps? Okay, let's go over to the straps. What color are they meant to be? Ritzuis shcheres, halacha l'meshmisin is a halacha l'meshmisin. It has to be red, black. Black only. Meisvei comes a kasha. Really? Tefillin ein koshvin oisn el b'mina. First of all, you're meant to tie the tefillin only with its type of material, with leather. You can't use, threads and ropes. But in terms of color, unlimited. Ben Yeroikais, Ben Shcheres, Ben Lavonais, green, black, white, it's all fine. Adumas layas, you shouldn't do red. The racha looks inappropriate. Rashi says gnai means it would appear like he has some skin scrapings and it's getting red and bloody. The racha, or maybe it got dirty with blood of Anida, his wife. So in any case, don't do red. But otherwise, it's okay. Now, we're going to return to this in a moment. But the Brisa continues with another interesting point with a story, two stories. Amar Yehuda, you say only leather is acceptable for tying the tefillin? Ma'aseh, there was a story, an actual story with Talmidai. So Rabbi Akiva's a student. He would strap his tefillin with blue wool. Rabbi Akiva's Rebbe didn't have anything to say about it. Apparently he was okay. If sure, it's tzaddik, can it be so that this great tzaddik, he would observe his Talmud doing something unacceptable, but he wouldn't say anything? The Chacham responded, hey, you know what? It's unlikely, but it could very well be that he didn't notice. He was busy learning, davening l'ra, so he didn't notice what he was doing. And in fact, had he noticed, he wouldn't let him do it. Because in fact, you need to tie it with leather only. Shuv Masa, Hyrcanus Benoi. There was another story with Hyrcanus, the son of Shor Belezer ben Hyrcanus. He was named same as his grandfather. Sheikosha Tfilav B'Lashayin Shal Argaman. So he too was strapping his tefillin with purple wool. And his father didn't say anything. If sure, he said, Tzaddik, can it be so that the Tzaddik would see and he wouldn't say anything? If in fact it wasn't appropriate? Say, yeah, hey, yeah. Perhaps he didn't notice. Certainly if he would have seen, he wouldn't have let him do it. Okay, in any case, let's go back to the beginning of the Brisa. What are the materials used for straps? Ketani, the Brisa tells us. So what about the colors? We discussed the materials. What about the colors? Ben Yeroikais, Ben Shcheres, Ben Lavonais. All colors are acceptable. Green, black, white. And here we say black only. The kasha answers like this. Depends on which side of the strap. Kan befnim, kan b'chutz. The outside, the smooth side, black only. Befnim inside, do what you want. Says the word even befnim. Okay, so if the Bryce is speaking about what's facing the person inside, so then what's the issue with red? Nobody will see it anyways. What's the issue with you can flip around and it's going to be exposed for a moment, so that's why you keep red off the agenda. Okay, Tana, we learned in the Bryce that tefillin merubais. Likewise, the squareness of the tefillin is an absolute requirement. Rashi explains, you have to make sure that it retains its squareness, even as you're sewing it and pulling it in all directions. You got to make sure it stays square. And when we say square, it doesn't mean just in terms of symmetry as opposed to round. It means it has to be actually square, a proper square, to the point that let's say the tefillin is 1 inch by 1 inch, for example. So the diagonal has to fit according to the ratio of a diagonal versus a square. So it's 1 to 5. Rashi says, okay. So basically it has to be a perfect square. It can't just be like a rectangle or something. Perhaps you can prove this point from a Bryce as well. It has to be perfectly square. Is it, let's say, a gula? Let's say he does a round tefillin box. Sakana. It's something that's dangerous because Rashi says he can bump into the wall and could push into his head if it's round and pointy. And of course, the mitzvah, he hasn't really fulfilled the mitzvah, so we see round is an absolute. Square is an absolute. Perhaps it's a bit different in that Bryce. Masnisa Davidika Magoiza, perhaps the Bryce is speaking that it was, really pointy round, like a Magoiza, like a walnut. And it's actually a Mishnah. So yeah, perhaps that's really off. But who says if it's just a little bit round, more like a square, just a little bit rounded, maybe that's okay. And that's what we need the halacha of Rav Papa to teach us, that it has to be perfectly square. Amar Avchuna tefillin. Let's say let's say in a tefillin shel rosh, you have the 4 compartments, and eventually it develops some sort of damage, some sort of hole, so the compartment is punctured. Tefillin kol zman shepnei tavla chayemes ksheres. If the pnei tavla, the tavla here is it's just a lashon referring to the box, the tefillin box. Okay, so if the outside the pnei tavla, if the outside of the box is unpunctured, it's okay. So even though there's some damage inside between the compartments, Rav Chizda Amar, it depends how far you go. Nifsaku shtayim ksherois sholish psulis. If 2 compartments split, got a hole, fine, but 3 is too much. Amar Rava explains, Rava, how the amras shtayim ksherois. When we say 2 is okay, la'amar elash zeh shloi keneged zeh. It's only if they're not next to each other, according to one pshat and Rashi, that the 2 compartments that are damaged aren't next to each other. According to another pshat, it means that the hole is not from one compartment into the other. So it's not going from 2 to 3 or from 3 to 4. Avol zeh keneged zeh psul, but they're next to each other, it's possible. Furthermore, v'zeh keneged zeh nami. And even when we say that next to each other is a problem, it's only an issue when it's a newly constructed, newly manufactured tefillin. So why is it snapping? Why is it falling apart? Apparently it's poor quality and it's possible. Aval ba'tiktalas mav, it's old tefillin, so due to its aging, it's happening. That's okay. How do we define old and new? Is it a matter of how old it is? Is it a matter of how used it was? What would you define as new? How would you define the term old in this context? Amalei says, look, it's not about age, it's about the condition of the leather. Called hecha. This is the test. If you go ahead and ki mitli baby shalcha, you pull the leather, okay, give it a little tug, and it just snaps back into place like a rubber. That's atikta. That's considered old and already settled. And in that case, even if there's some issue, it's okay. But if it doesn't have that ability to snap back into place, it's too firm, it's too fresh, then it's called nu. Vinami, another pshat, we turn to Amid Beis. Vinami, another test would be, if you would grab the ritzua, the strap, asya, but straight tefillin just quickly follows, there's no delay. Chadatasa, that's considered nu. If it sort of lingers behind and stretches on you, then you know it's already old. Abaye v'Yosef made Rav Yosef. There was a story of Abaye who was sitting in front of Rav Yosef. Ifsek ritzua. So what happened? The strap, Rav Yosef's strap snapped. Ifsek ritzua tefillah. Amalei, Rav Yosef turned to Abaye with a question. Can I go ahead and reattach it? Can I sew them back together? Amalei says, can I tie them back together? He says, no. Amalei kshar tam ksiv. Ukshar tam. Right, we learned the other day, tam means tam, complete. Right, no hodgepodging together pieces. Ksiv shekshir tam, you have to tie with a proper strap, a single strap, no pieces. Amalei. Rav Acha, brother Rav Yosef, he told the Rav Ashi, he asked the question, what about if you do a proper, professional mending, you do a proper stitch that you don't see on some internal stitch, and you direct the thread, the stitches internally, so the stitch is not seen from the outside, only from the inside. Omar, he says, even that's not okay. Go take a look. Ma Amma, what are the people, the nation, what are the Jews doing? Ma Amma Dvar, what are they doing? And that's what you do. And we don't find people mending their ritzuos, put it to shemus, and go find another one. Omar Papa. So initially, the ritzuos are meant to be configured in a certain length, right? They have a certain shear, as we're going to see soon. What if there's just a little bit left over, remnants? So they got, worn down, scraped off, and snapped off, and you have just a little bit remaining. Remnants of an original ritzua works. The word disagrees, but Lav Milsi, it's incorrect. Why? Mida Amri, Bnei Reb Chia taught us that the idea of gardumin, remnants, leftovers, are specific to mitzvah items. So, although they're meant to have a specific shear, like, tzitzis, meant to be such and such size, but if they've been used and they've been rubbed out and missing, that's okay. As long as there's something left. But by tefillin, it's a totally different entity. It's Tashmisha Kedusha, it has Hashem's name, it's a whole different thing. It has an absolute size, dimension, and shear, and no leeway on that. They say like this: Gardumei tcheles, the remnants of the tcheles of the tzitzis threads, Gardumei ezev, of the ezev grass used for the paraduma ksherin. Even if you have just a little bit left, that's okay. Hasam with the tashmish mitzvaninu. So, from their statement, we learn that it's limited to those types of contexts of tashmish mitzvah, hasamu, tashmish mitzvaninu. So there we say, a bit left over works. Aval hacha, but here by the tefillin, the tashmisha kedusha ninu, the tashmisha kedusha, they accommodate the parashas with Hashem's name, etc. We don't have this leeway. They have to retain their shiur, otherwise they're possible. Machlal dis lo shiur. Apparently, there's some sort of minimum size for them. Yeah, Makam shiurai. What's the shiur? Amar Rabbi Bachama, Amar Shlakish. She says like it's ad etzbat streda, until the finger called etzrat streda, that's the one next to the thumb. What does that mean? Rav Kahana machvi kafaf. Rav Kahana displayed it as kafaf. So he put out first and the second and third fingers, and that's how big the ritzua has to be if I wanted the other. That's the minimum shiur. Rav Ashi, however, had a bigger shiur, machvi pashut. He would stretch the thumb from the first finger, which is a much bigger stretch, much bigger area. Rashi explains it's called pashut because it's much wider compared to the first, shear, which is much smaller. So it's called kafaf, sort of bent compared to the more wider shear. Now, other Rishonim had different interpretation of this Gemara, and they learned that the ritzuos are meant to be way longer, and that's what we actually do today. Rabba would strap the ritzois, tie the tefillin on his upashid v'shado, and that he would send the rest of the ritzua behind him, sort of hang it behind him. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, however, katalu maslas. So after he would tie the ritzuas and the tefillin, he would maslas. Rashi says like goydel would sort of braid the extra strapping as it's hanging down. The Ravna Ovid Kedidon, he would do like we do. We have long straps and we let it hang down in front of ourselves. Amar Vidu Rav Shilas bar Breder Rav Shmuel bar Shilas Mishmei the Rab. He quotes Rab Kesher tefillin. Halachal Mishmei Sinai. The specific design applied to the Kesher Shal Tefillin, Rashi explains that you meant to tie the ritzois in a manner that you configure Hashem's name. So you have first you have the shin up on the Shal Rosh, as we explained before. Then you have in the strappings behind the neck, you have the straps configured like a dalid. And finally, in the Tefillin Shal Yad, where the kesher, where the knot touches the tefillin, you have a little piece of leather. It sticks out and it's bent like a little yud. So you have the shin, the dalet, and the yud. So that's Halachah Mishmei Sinai, to have this arrangement. Amar Rav Nachman Noyein Levar. So Rashi has two pshatim. Noy is the prettiness, the nice element of the straps are meant to be facing out, meant to be levar. Two pshatim. Rashi, his first pshat is the Shem Hashem, the Dal, the Yud are meant to be visible, and second pshat is that in the strap you have two sides. One is the smoother, right? So that's the nicer looking side. That's meant to be facing out, and the bumpy side facing the person. Rav Ashi Rabbi Yosef Gamei Rav Mazutra. So what happened to Rav Ashi? He was sitting in front of Mazutra, and Mazutra's strap turned upside down. It's hapchalei ritzur the tefillin. Amalei so Rav Ashi noticed, and he says, "Leisavar lamar v'noyein lavari." What about the halacha that it needs to be the nice part needs to be facing out? You don't hold that. Amalei lavatoi. He says, "I didn't realize. Sorry." Of course, and he corrected it. We have a pasuk in the Torah which says, "V'ro'u kol amei ha'oretz ki shem Hashem nikra alecha v'yorem mimeka." The goyim will take note of the Shem of Hashem that rests upon Klal Yisrael, and they will be fearful of you. It will instill a fear and awe. Tanya. So which element of Shem Hashem is found on a person? That's the tefillin. Elu, the pasuk is referring to the tefillin shebarosh. There's a vart they say, I think from the Katzka, tefillin shebarosh. Should say tefillin ala rosh. On there, what's birosh? The tefillin meant to be inside. And to internalize the message of the tefillin as you're wearing them. We have a pasuk in Shmois, "Vaseroisi es kapi, v'reises achayri." So Hashem says, "I'll allow you to see achayri, kaviyachal Hashem's, the back." Amar Rav China bar Bizna bar Rav Shimon Chasida. It's a reference to the tefillin. Malamed she'er le'Kadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. We learned that Hashem showed Moshe kesher shel tefillin, the knot of the tefillin shel rosh, which is behind the bottom of the head, behind the face, right? Rashi brings, based on the Gemara Brachos, we learned that Hashem kaviyachal puts on tefillin to show his connection to Klal Yisrael, and that's what Hashem showed Moshe. Amar Vida kesher shel tefillin. What's the significance of having the dalad, the kesher of the tefillin shel rosh placed exactly where it is in the bottom of the back of the head? Tzorach shei lamala. So firstly, it's meant to be high up, not down on the back of the neck. It's meant to be higher up. Why? Because it signifies our position of strength. You, Yisrael Lamalo, V'lei Lamata, to empower Klal Yisrael to be on top, to be leaders, to maintain their prominence. V'lei Lamata, as opposed to being down. And the kesher, although it's in the back of the head, but it's meant to be opposite the face. So ensure that it's actually on the top of the spine, not off to the side, because it's meant to be directly opposite the face. Why? Again, so that Yisrael will have the power to be lefanim, in front, not in the back. Okay, what about the bracha of tefillin? Amar Rav Shmuel bar Bidra Amar Rav Amar lo Samsei Amar Rav Achar Amar Rav Huna Amar lo Samsei Amar Menachos bar Shmuel. When does one say his bracha on the tefillin? Tefillin may masai mevarach aleim. When do you make the bracha? Mishas hanachasan, after you put them on. That's too late, ain't it? Is that so? V'amar Rav Amar Shmuel. Shmuel himself tells us a bracha on a mitzvah is meant to take place before the act of mitzvah. Kol ha-mitzvahs, kul, all the mitzvahs, mevarach aleim, you make the bracha on them over, prior to doing them. By the way, the Ritva, I think it's in Psachim, he gives us two reasons why. It's a Rashba. Why bracha before the mitzvah itself? He says, because a bracha is avodas hanefesh, and that comes before avodas haguf. So the bracha is the sort of the spiritual manifestation of the mitzvah. It's avodas hanefesh. Verbalization of that bracha, it's avodas hanefesh. It takes place before the physical aspect of the mitzvah. Number two, he says a mitzvah, an act which is done through a bracha experience, allows the mitzvah to go much higher. It elevates the actual physical act because it's accompanied by that bracha which was recited in preparation, in anticipation, leading into that act of mitzvah. In any case, bracha before the mitzvah. And here we say, first you put the tefillin on, then you make a bracha. Abai and Rava, they both answered like this. They both answered. When he said that the bracha is mishas hanachas, and he meant mishas hanacha, sure, after he placed it loosely on his head or on his arm, va'ad kshas kshira, until he actually tightens it and firms it and sort of ties it. Because the tightening, is the act of the mitzvah. Kshartam lois al yadecha, right? So even though he already placed it on, that's not really the act of the mitzvah, it's sort of like the preparation. So you put it on, so you're as close enough to the actual act, which is the kshira, you make the bracha, and then you complete with the maisa of the kshira. So you've done the bracha before the mitzvah, as required. Okay, let's do a quick chazara. We spoke about flipping around the parshas and the tefillin, which makes it puzzle. How many aspects of the tefillin are halacha mishmisinai? The tetura, right, the bottom fold, the mavarta, where the strap goes through, the shin, the charitz, the ritzuis, having to be leather and black, square, right? The kesher shel tefillin, meaning the shin and then the dal and the yud. All right. We spoke about damaged tefillin. At what point does it become puzzle? We spoke about repairing the strap if they snap. We spoke about the shear of the straps. We spoke about the Shem Hashem Nikra Alecha, Tefillin Shabaroish, the Kesher Shel Tefillin Hashem Shel Moshe Rabbeinu, and the exact timing of the bracha upon laying tefillin. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.